Hello and welcome to Sports by Compion Midwest Rugby Edition. I'm your host, of course, Stephen Compion, and I'm joined here by our friend, Mr. Nolan Fisher, all the way from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Came here to talk to us about his rugby club. It's very exciting times. Welcome, Mr. Fisher. How are you?
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Doing pretty well. Having a good week. Cold's not doing too well though. Not liking
Feel
that,
that.
but yeah.
Absolutely. Right there on the same page with you. It has been cold times indeed. But that aside, rugby continues, as they say. So we are here to learn about, of course, the Fort Wayne, Indiana Rugby Club, and we're very excited to get down to the basics of it and how it all works. So right off the bat, as I understand it, you guys are a D2 and a D3 rugby club. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So our club was established in 1969. So we've been around for quite a while. Just made the jump from D2 to D3 um, 3 or 4 years ago. So we're relatively new to D2, but we've always had a D3/D4 side.
Okay.
But this year, D2 went into the semifinals of Midwest.
Wow. Even
They
though you guys
actually,
are pretty new.
yeah, yeah, they actually beat the number one team um, to make it to the semifinals, Palmer College.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I'm familiar with them.
yeah, so they were pretty excited about that. Pretty excited to make it to the semis. Obviously, not where they wanted to finish, but still a really good season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long have you been playing for them?
I've been playing for the Fort Wayne Club for roughly 2 years.
Roughly 2 years.
Been playing rugby for about five. Started out in high school my senior year before COVID kind of took that away. But then I
That's
went to
lovely.
college, played a couple of years there, and also coached. Was a head coach for Wabash College there for a minute, and then came home, started coaching, and started playing for Fort Wayne.
Awesome. What position do you play?
Tight head, loose head.
Okay. A big
That's my
old
main
prop
key.
out there, huh?
Yep.
Nice, nice. So do you guys all practice together and such? I would imagine.
Yes. So D2 and D3 practice at the same time. But then they split off into D2 and D3 during a portion of the practice. But get some good scrimmage time in and just trying to make everybody better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, what are your typical numbers at practice usually?
Typically, we're sitting anywhere between 30 and 50. Kind of depends on the day. That's more for the fall season. For spring, we have a lot of our players that actually coach the high school and the youth levels in Fort Wayne. So the numbers kind of dwindled, but we're still sitting right around 30.
Nice.
So pretty active participation throughout the year.
Let's hop right into that. You mentioned your youth rugby and high school rugby going on. How long have you guys been doing that?
So Dwanger's been around. We just celebrated our 20th season last year.
Cool.
So we've been around for quite a while doing that. Youth program, we're kind of evolving as we go, but it's been off and on for like the last 5 or 6 years.
Awesome.
Um, but until last year, it was kind of split in between each feeder school into their own high school. But then as we saw numbers start to decline last year, we came together, Bishop Dwenger and Leo High School. We came together and we're like, why don't we just stick with it with each other? So that's kind of what we did. We started doing that. But then this past year, we started transitioning into Fort Wayne rugby, Fort Wayne youth. So kind of trying to create a feeder system from youth all the way to the men's program. So yeah, we instead of traveling down to Indy every Sunday, we decided just get enough numbers to play each other and just play at home. So
Nice. Nice. You mentioned that you're one of the coaches as well. Are you the head coach there, or one of the backs coaches? I mean, lineman coaches.
more of the forwards coach. We kind of it's 3 or 4 of us that kind of split the responsibilities. So we just kind of all feed with each other and try to get these kids just getting a basic understanding of the game, making sure that they're safe, that they're coached appropriately, and we can do some good things with them.
That's cool, man. How's the success been? I mean, obviously it's still starting now. You guys just recently kind of combined and such, but
Mhm.
seen some studs pop up yet, or
Oh yeah. So actually, one of my neighbors, their son, played for me the last couple years, and just the development. Now he's at Delanger, and he's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited to see his evolution through high school, just because I've been able to coach him through middle school a little bit.
nice?
But we've got some good kids out there. Um, really small, really small kids. We have a lot more backs than we have forwards, which it isn't a bad problem to have. But when you try
Right,
to split it into two sides, it kind of becomes a little
gets a little
tedious.
dicey.
Yeah. So, but we're seeing a lot of improvement year over year from these kids. Like going into last year, from the year before, it only took a couple practices for these kids to knock the rust off. So hopefully this year it'll be even better. Get some better turnout so that we can play some true 15s with these kids.
Awesome, man. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could throw some of those wings, some of those backliners at flanker, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was my plan. I was kind of already debating on who to put there. So yeah, we're gonna see how it turns out.
Nice, nice. I'm kind of hopping back to your D3 squad. How's that been? You know, obviously, I imagine you guys lose a lot of your better players to D2 squad. So, how's that been playing with them and such?
It's been fun. It's a good group of guys. Just busy with their everyday lives, but they still manage to show up for rugby. D3 is typically a lot of the younger guys and the guys who haven't played before. So
Gotcha.
it's basically our developmental for the men's side. But last year we broke our losing streak. We
Nice.
finally won a game against Detroit last year, and guys were pretty happy about that. They were really excited, just because we're starting to see some growth that we haven't seen, and I feel like towards the end of the season we started getting a lot more commitment out of guys. So
Nice.
it's looking up.
Is that the Detroit tradesman?
No, the other Detroit side. There's two of them.
That's right. I remember that. So you guys play a Detroit team, huh? Now, obviously, that's super far from us here in Rockford, but where are they? Like, how far of a drive is that? Is that the furthest
Uh,
game?
it's about a 2 hour drive.
Okay.
Um, really the furthest we ever have to travel is in our summer tournaments. So like in August we'll go out to the Wisconsin tournament.
Okay.
That's out there. But that's really the farthest that we have to drive until we get into Midwest. But like our league games are pretty local. Not really much more than a 3 hour drive in any direction. So
Nice. That's reasonable. Yeah, we're about 2.5 hours for our 2:15 or so for our for this drive, so
hmm
that's fairly reasonable. Um, Whenever you guys, you mentioned that you go for summer tournaments sometimes. You guys just consider luck of the draw here in Rockford last weekend of July. It's always a really great time. You can
yeah,
bind up whoever shows up. We just mix them in, and everyone draws their name out of a hat basically, and you get put on different teams. So you guys should consider
sweet.
that for next time. We're a little closer than Wisconsin, I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, for sure. About an hour. It's about an hour closer. That'd
There
be
you go.
yeah,
There you go. You guys should definitely come out. It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
So talk about kind of how you mentioned that you played a little bit in college. Did you play some high school too, or
Yeah, just my senior year. So I went through my 4 years at Dwyer and knowing a lot of the guys who played rugby from middle school all the way through high school. Just really didn't feel like it was something that I was going to be interested in. But then my senior year, I kind of gave it a shot and instantly fell in love with it. We went out to Ohio for our first match, like the week before everything started shutting down for COVID.
right?
Um, and we didn't even know if we were going to be able to have the game or not. But we went out there and I had a really good time. I had quite a few meters on my runs, and needless to say, I was a little bit exhausted. I wasn't expecting it, but I scored a try in my first game, and I was like, man,
Sweet,
this sport's pretty cool. Yeah.
absolutely.
So then after that, I went to Wabash College. I played there for three fall seasons
Okay,
because we just played seven, so we played in the fall.
okay,
Um,
Where is Wabash College? Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It's about an hour west of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Small private liberal arts school. Very tight knit community though. You get a lot of guys from Indianapolis, obviously, but one of the harder schools in the Midwest for sure. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But
Cool.
yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. Got ended up joining my fraternity, and it already had a lot of rugby guys in it, so they kind of pushed me to get out to practice, and I started playing with them. And then my last 2 seasons, I started transitioning into a coaching role because of concussions. So I wanted to take a little bit of break, but I still wanted to help out. So we needed a head coach, and I just kind of fell into that role, took over some of the administrative stuff, and ended up helping the guys. The semester after I left, they ended up going to the national championship, and they placed third. So pretty big for us or for them. That was the first time we were ever invited, and the first time we ever went. And they ended up placing third. So it was a huge deal for them. I was super proud of the guys, and by that time, I was already starting to coach for Bishop Dwenger. So I was kind of watching from the sidelines and rooting them on from Fort Wayne and while they were in BC. So yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Quite a community around rugby, right? Kind of sucks you in once you get involved.
yeah, it's the brotherhood that once you're in, you never want to leave, but you don't. You're a little hesitant once you start, just because you see all the clips online of the huge hits and the penalties and everything. But once you learn how to play the game and get guys around you who want to play it right, it just makes a world difference.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions that it's like super dangerous, or more dangerous than football. That is. I mean, obviously it's a contact sport. It's fairly dangerous, but maybe not as bad as football or some of the way it's portrayed to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things we're trying to teach our kids right now is how rugby can translate into football, just because there's so many similarities. And if we can get these kids to start tackling right on the rugby pitch and then translate onto the football field, they're going to be studs.
Absolutely. That definitely will teach you some of the good tackling. Plus, you have to make so many more tackles in a rugby game than you may have to do in a football game, so you'll get lots of practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So you mentioned this club's been around since 68, right?
Yeah, 69.
69. Cool. So hey, that's a good number.
Yeah.
How long do you have like a lot of your old boys still involved, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the way Fort Wayne Rugby is kind of broken up, we have the Black and Blue Society, which is the 501c or 501c that kind of takes care of all the money part of it. And then we have Fort Wayne Rugby, and then that branches off into pretty much everything else rugby related in Fort Wayne. But the old boys, once they retire, they kind of funnel into the Black and Blue Society. So they take care of a lot of the fundraising. So for our big events, like we've got one coming up here at the end of February called Leatherball, which is our end of the year banquet for all the guys. They'll take care of all that. They'll get a lot of the tournaments going. So like Three Rivers is our big one that we have in the summer during the Three Rivers Festival. Because Fort Wayne's situated on Three Rivers. So you'll see on the logo how it's got the 3 lines through it. That represents the St. Joe, the St. Mary, and the Maumee. But that's one of our biggest tournaments of the year. We got teams coming from all around to come play in that. It's a lot of fun. It's just a social tournament. You're out there to play and have fun. And yeah, so the old boys take care of a lot of the logistics part, and then they kind of funnel down the rest of it to us. So yeah,
that's cool. So when are you guys starting up practice again, or have you already been starting?
We haven't started for the spring season yet. We'll probably be starting here within the next month, as far as the men's club goes. But for high school, we've already started. We pretty much started right after they got back from Christmas break, doing film sessions and then working out in the gym. trying to get them in the right mindset for the rugby, so that once we get out on the field for actual practices, the rest won't be so hard to knock off.
Absolutely, that makes sense. So I imagine you guys got some good filming around it and everything like that, probably
Yeah,
provided by the old boys.
yeah. So actually, with the high school program, like kind of like what I was saying, kind of making it a feeder school or
Hmm.
feeder system all the way from youth to men's.
Right.
We've kind of started implementing top down. So the head coach for the men's team is actually the head coach for Dwanger. So he kind of translates a lot from the men's side into Dwanger. So like he'll
Okay.
try it out on the men's side and then implemented it into Dwanger what he likes. So it's kind of nice that we have that. And then obviously with me helping out with youth, I can kind of create that funnel system, teaching
Nice.
the kids the basics, kind of keep simplifying it on the way down, but enough that once they get to the next level, they should have a pretty good idea of what we're trying to teach.
Yeah, it's cool. It definitely helps out a lot. I remember I didn't get into it till my senior year of college, and I got called offsides a lot my first couple games.
Yeah,
So it's good to know at least some of the basics once you get going, right?
yeah.
So talk a little bit about your D3 squad. What are some of who are some of the players you like? Who's your captain, first of all?
Uh, for the D3 side, we kind of flip flop between Matt Goheen and Cam Shear. There are two older boys that are on the D3 side, and they're our heart and soul of our team. They kind of keep us going when the matches get a little rough, and they celebrate us once we get going. Once we do some pretty good things, so they're Matt's been around rugby for almost his entire life. So he's been playing here in Fort Wayne, down in Muncie at Ball State, and then he went up to Wisconsin and played for a few years up there for a side. I don't remember exactly which one, but Cam, he's been in Fort Wayne his entire life, so his roots are here, his family's here, so he really cares about us and teaching us young boys how to play the game correctly and how to play the game dominantly.
That's
Um,
cool.
but as far as our studs, I would definitely say they're probably the two best that we got on that D3 side.
What positions do they play?
Matt kind of flip flops between hooker and backline, mostly hooker now that he's getting a little bit older. But Cam's usually our 9 or our 10.
Cool. Yeah, that's important to have a good 10. They knows how to direct traffic and such. I mean, nine's doing the same thing basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. How about the D2 squad? Who are some of the studs? Who's the captain over there? What's going on?
Yeah, so the DCU sides, they've got some good boys on there. Trey Sherman, who's our 8 man, constantly picked for Rugby Indiana, their select side, and then for Thunderbirds, which is the Midwest select side.
I have heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, and Chris Ballard, he actually just retired this year, but he was a big part of the team for many years. Saw us at our lows and was sticking around with us at our highs. So um, those two guys would probably say would be some of the heart and soul. We've got a really good winger in Ian Muter. Really tall, lanky dude, really shifty. Really loves the game, really knows the game. So he knows how to create space on that edge and chop up some defenses. So,
Imagine it makes you guys a lot better going against all these studs in practice, right? Or imagine not too many like one-on-one drills, but you get the feel.
yeah, yeah, it definitely pushes you to be better because you want them to be better too. So it just brings out the best in everybody.
That's cool. You probably get competitive practices, guys trying to move up too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We actually this past year we were kind of low on numbers, so the competition towards the start of the season was definitely a little heated. Guys wanting to do their best and show coach their best, but we ended up with a pretty good side and it brought us all the way to the semifinals.
That's huge. That's really cool, man. Being able to play deep into the playoffs, that's super impressive, especially since you guys just got there. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Were they ever a D2 squad before and kind of moved down, or is this the first time they're up in D2?
yeah. So kind of kept moving around between D2 and D3, but we were kind of stuck in D3 for a while. Um, still at the top of the league in D3, but wasn't quite there yet with D2 yet. But then they decided to push us into D2 a few years ago, and so it's kind of been a struggle getting to that upper level of competition.
Sure.
Those first couple of years, but I think we're finally starting to figure it out, and we're on the right track.
That's awesome, man. Very exciting. Well, yeah, headed into this this next year, then obviously for the D2, D3 squads in general. What are your hopes, aspirations? Do you think it's going to be a big year for you guys? What are you thinking?
Yeah, D2 obviously always we're looking for that Midwest Championship. So that's kind of the high end. The low end is just running the table through the season, just making it competitive for everybody around. D3, we're just trying to make our name. Moving up from D4 was kind of difficult, as moving up in the leagues always is.
Sure.
But now that some of these guys have been around each other for 3-4 years, 2-3-4 years, starting to get things clicking. We're starting to get things more committed so that we can work together more and translate that into the games.
Very exciting, man. And also with that feeder program, it's really going to help out a lot too. So
yeah,
we getting some experienced players coming up.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah. So I did want to touch on that feeder system a little bit more. So obviously we got the Fort Wayne, the youth, and then the high school levels. But actually, this past year, one of our longtime members, Sam DiFilippo, he actually just started men's side at Indiana Tech. So this is the first college team, well, since IPFW, which is now PFW, folded, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. So Sam's trying to bring back college rugby into Fort Wayne, keeping Fort Wayne in Fort Wayne.
Cool.
Giving kids a good education, good private school education through Indiana Tech, and just keeping them on that path in Fort Wayne rugby.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, yeah. I think we kind of covered a lot of the bases here. You have anything you thought we didn't cover? Anything you want to get off your chest?
No, just shout out to Fort Wayne Rugby. If anybody listening is in the Fort Wayne area, definitely hit us up. We're always looking for referees, coaches, players. Even if you just want to get involved but don't want to play, come.
Always fun. Always fun to watch live rugby.
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't just go for Fort Wayne either. Anybody who's listening, who's got a rugby team around them, and you like rugby, just go help out in any way you can, man.
Absolutely. Speaking of being an ambassador for rugby, Mr. Fisher himself is the reason that we had Bailey join our women's team and not got a girlfriend out of it. So it's pretty sweet. Make sure you're always pushing rugby anywhere you are. You never know when someone's going to go find it, and maybe it'll be a great passion for them. So it's always very exciting. Rugby community is always growing. I don't know if you pay attention to Six Nations, but that's coming up soon.
Yep.
Who are you riding with?
I'm always partial to Scotland, just
Yeah,
because they've always got a gritty team.
Yep.
Most of the time the underdogs. So I always ride with them, but since I don't really have a dog in the fight with any particular nation, I just kind of watch it just for the rugby.
Absolutely. It's always high quality rugby for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And me being a coach, I can get a couple things out of it, watching the games, looking for schemes, looking for set pieces. So it's definitely a lot of fun to watch.
For sure. For sure. Rugby's awesome. Shout out Fort Wayne, Indiana. Shout out Nolan for coming on the show and talking to us about his beloved rugby team. Sports by Compian fans, make sure you're liking and subscribing to continue to get this Midwest rugby experience, as well as all of our other content. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate Nolan for coming on. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, guys.